We
can't hear you.
Good afternoon, everyone. The Budget and Finance Committee meeting will limit physical access in the meeting room due to current limitations on public gatherings. Accommodations have been made to ensure that the public is able to participate in the meetings. The public may participate in the following ways: watch the meeting on Franklin TV or the City of Franklin website, watch the live stream through the City of Franklin Facebook and YouTube accounts, call into the conference meeting at 312-626-6977. Meeting ID is 930-2501-8024. Password is 263570. Callers will be unmuted and given an opportunity to comment during the meeting at specific times. Limited viewing will be available in the lobby of City Hall to watch the live video. The public may email comments and questions prior to the start of the meeting to recorder@franklintn.gov to be read aloud. City YouTube, www.youtube.com/user// City of Franklin, City of Franklin Live, www.facebook.com// City of Franklin, at city website www.franklintn.gov, at Franklin TV. Let's do a roll call vote, a voice vote, and see who all is here. Alderman Bransford, are you here?
Present.
Alderman Speedy.
Present.
And Alderman Peterson.
Present.
And the chair is present. Let's go to the second item, actually the first item on the agenda is consideration of resolution 20-20-143, a resolution declaring that the Budget and Finance Committee shall meet on August 13th, 2020, and conduct its essential business by electronic means rather than being required to gather a quorum of the members physically present in the same location, because it is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak. I will entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Proper motion is a second. Alderman Speedy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Alderman Peterson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Alderman Bransford, how do you vote?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Unmute there, Chairman.
Can you hear me? Okay. Second item on the agenda is consideration of the minutes. I will entertain a motion of approval if everyone's had a chance to read those. Any corrections or deletions? Entertain a motion on the minutes.
So moved.
Proper
Second.
motion, second. Alderman Speedy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Alderman Peterson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Alderman Bransford, how do you vote?
Yes.
And the chair votes. Yeah, temporarily. Got it again? Okay. Let's go to item 3 is consideration of procurement awards to Zions Band Corporation, National Association of Atlanta, Georgia, in the total estimated annual amount of $5,660 for custody service for non-pension investments of the city for the finance department. Purchasing office procurement solicitation number is 2020-027. $9,500 budgeted in 110-85520 4150 for fiscal year 2021, contract number 2020-0214. Christine, do you want to give a brief explanation?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will also, I think I'll defer most of the details on this award to Mike Lowe, our comptroller. We did go through a solicitation procurement process for custodial services for our city investments. Mike, would you give a brief summary for us?
Yes, be glad to. Good afternoon. On this item, the Finance Department requests a committee recommendation to the full board. The city uses a third-party custodian for its non-pension investments. What the custodian does is they handle investment transactions and provide us valuation and reporting services. And with this procurement, we will have online system access, which we currently do not have. The evaluation team evaluated 5 proposals and ranked Zions Bank Corporation the highest. They are out of Atlanta and received favorable feedback from reference checks. The team recommends Zions as the non-pension investment custodian for 3 years with a possible 4th and 5th year.
Any questions? Any questions from any of the committee members? We would need a motion to forward this to the full boards for vote. I would entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, second. Alderman, let's do a roll call vote on that. Alderman Bradford, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Alderman Peterson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Alderman Speedy, how do you vote?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. I'm gonna give you the chance to introduce our Cool Springs Management Conference for this presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to just give a little bit of an introduction of this presentation to our viewers who we are accustomed to hearing from a report from the management of the Cool Springs Conference Center every year in April. That coincides with our budget process, and this committee always invites the management of the center to come in and tell us an overview of what they see as the business at the center, as well as capital needs of the center for the next year. Of course, this year was very different, and the month of April, there was actually essentially the center was closed down. There were no events at our conference center. And we invited the management to come back to this committee at a later time when they had an opportunity to see where the business, as well as where they were at operationally a little bit down the road. So we're pleased today to have the management of the Cool Springs Conference Center with us. Of course, the Cool Springs Conference Center is owned jointly by the City of Franklin and Williamson County, and it's adjoined by the Marriott Cool Springs Hotel, which is owned by Chartwell, as well as operated by Chartwell Management. And with Chartwell Hospitality, I'm very pleased to introduce our 2 guests today. Michael Sanders is with corporate Chartwell Hospitality. He is located in their corporate office here in Franklin. We also have Matt Lave. Matt is the general manager of the Marriott Cool Springs Hotel, as well as the operator of our conference center. And we're pleased to have them present a report on the conference center, as well as they're going to also talk about some procedures that they have in place to keep our guests safe, as well as what they see in the near term for business operations. So with that, we're very pleased to have Michael and Matt with us.
Are they ready to make their presentation?
I see Matt, and I don't know which one of them are going to kick it off, but we do have their presentation that we're going to, or it's being pulled up right now. Matt, are you going to be starting us off?
Looks like he needs to be unmuted. There you go.
All right, can you hear me okay? All right.
Thank
All right, we
you.
can go to,
Yes.
and I don't know if I can control it or not, but I guess not. So we can go to page 2. So just a kind of an outline of what we're going to talk about today is the operational summary, organizational structure, and what our relationship is with the city and the county, and then the financial and budget overview, which even since this time that we turned in that budget, you know, there's been a lot of changes since June, obviously, with everything going on. Go forward. So as everybody knows on the board, I'm not sure if everybody that's tuned in online or via the internet knows, but as Christine pointed out, we are the hotel, the Marriott Hotel is attached to the conference center. We manage both entities jointly. One, you know, can't exist without the other for the most part. The 297 guest rooms plus 3 suites can't get filled without the conference center, and the conference center can't get filled without the 297 plus 3 suites. A little bit about renovations. We had a major PIP plan coming into this year, property improvement plan. Part of that plan was to replace all the conference center doors going into the ballrooms and meeting space, replacing the locking system with an automated RFID system that works on radio frequency and gives us a lot more security. We did complete that project. Actually, that project completed last week. We thought it was important for the safety and security of the conference center to go forward with that project. One of the other major projects that we have is the public restrooms. That was a requirement of Marriott Hotels during the sale of this hotel. Right now, that project has been put on hold due to the coronavirus. Marriott has given us some deferment on that particular project and a few other projects until November of 2022. So we'll revisit those at a later date. There were some smaller projects like the ceiling tiles in the ballroom, LED lighting, some sound systems, but the major renovation won't happen for another few years. You can forward that. The hotel, as Christine said, is owned and managed by Chartwell Hospitality. We did take over the hotel in November 1 of 2018. Time flies. The conference center and the hotel revenues are not shared. The conference center revenues are 100% revenues for the city and the county, split evenly. Some of the expenses throughout the hotel are shared. Administrative in general, my position is shared, and it's based on a percentage of total sales. So if the hotel does 100,000 and the conference center does 100,000, the admin in general, labor and expenses are split 50-50, and do the math from there. Our sales team is split 50-50, and the reason that is split 50-50 is because those salespeople that are booking rooms are also booking the conference center. And then the catering and event management is 100% paid for by the conference center. And then food and beverage, the food and beverage director, Andy Duncan, is actually sitting to my side over here. The food and beverage expenses are split mostly as a percentage of food revenue. Next slide. This just kind of gives you an idea of where we were at in 2018 and 19 up until current. Fiscal year 2018-19 revenues were at $7.86 million. And then house profit was at $1.78 million. 2019 into 20, we were probably on pace to have a pretty darn good year. I mean, we were really, really high on everything that was going on in the hotel and really, really high on everything that was going on in the conference center. And then, of course, everything came to a screeching halt and after the first week of March. As Christine said, everything in April canceled, everything in May canceled. I think maybe we had one small group in May. And then in June, we had a few groups that didn't cancel. And July turned out to be better than we thought. It's nowhere near where the budget was, but it turned out to be a little bit better than we thought. We had a couple of diehard groups that, you know, although the numbers were smaller because we had the social distance, and their numbers cut down, so the revenues cut down, we were able to at least maximize our profitability on what we did have. And then going into 2020, 2021 budget, our budget is 6.09 million. I can tell you right now that is a very, very aggressive budget because this was turned in early June, I want to say, Andy. And a lot has changed since then, just with the extension of some of the CDC guidelines and the, you know, the increase in positive cases throughout the state and throughout the country. So, go to the next slide. So here's some of the impacts, impacting areas for the current revenue. The COVID-19, obviously everybody knows about that. Our first group cancellation received on February 29th. The last group service prior to the shutdown was 313. Remaining March groups all canceled. I already touched on that. We have lost all groups for the months of April and May. We have received group cancellation inquiries and further cancellations throughout the fiscal second quarter and third quarter, and there's just a lot of uncertainty with a lot of the groups that we have. And a lot of these groups are partners of the hotel and the conference center. They're groups that have been coming here for years, and it's just they're as devastated as we are about having to cancel. But because of the relationship, we have tried to work through being sensitive to the situation, depending on when they cancel or depending on when their meeting is coming up in the future. We have collected some cancellations. The majority of our cancellations that we've collected, we've asked for 50% penalty and then 50% towards a future function. So we at least get them back to the hotel and conference center once, you know, once this passes. Let's see, March through July, 197,000 has been collected in forfeiture. That's forfeiture cancellation. You could probably consider that very similar or pretty much the same thing. I'm sorry.
55 or something.
So month to date in August, we collected $55,000 in cancellations for the conference center. Actually, I've collected more conference center cancellations than hotel cancellations because the food, contracted food revenues were pretty high. And then you know, we still have concerns about room sets and how we social distance, and I can tell you that we're taking every necessary action to make our guests and our employees comfortable here. I think, do we have that in the next slide? Slide 7, please. I might be jumping around, but let me just speak to what we're doing here. Unfortunately for the hotel and conference center, we have the largest space in Williamson County. So they're, with Williamson County in phase 2, they're a little bit ahead of Davidson County. And then there's a lot of meetings in smaller space they can't social distance because they just can't, you know, they don't have the space. So for instance, our 6-foot table, 6-foot round tables, we are setting 4 and 5, and we're allowed up to 6 people at those, but we like to keep it at 4 and 5. Basically, we've cut our occupancy in half in the ballroom. So whereas a smaller venue, they can't cut it in half because they just don't have the space. So we're getting calls on those, and we're able to capitalize on some of those smaller meetings. We're being flexible on prices. We're taking a lower rate in some instances where we're sitting empty because $1 in the bank is better than 0 in the bank. As far as what we're doing from a cleanliness standpoint, we have sanitation stations located throughout the hotel. We have signage. We do have a mask requirement. We had a mask requirement in the hotel before the ordinance was put into place in the county. That was a Marriott-driven initiative, so we require it when you walk in the doors and if you're in our public space. Talked about the smaller meetings. We'll go to the next one. Oh, I'm sorry, go back to 7. We'll talk about the current pace to last year. You can see that right now. Andy, would you say that those numbers are fairly accurate now, or have they changed even more now?
They've changed even more since this was done.
We lost a holiday party in December, which was $40,000 in food and beverage. And then we lost another group in October, which I don't remember off the top of my head the value of that group. You know, and
Podiatrist, yeah. So, I mean, it is, every day is different, and, you know, we're just trying to stay ahead of it. Okay, you can go forward to number 8. After March happened, you know, we did have to make the difficult decisions, and this is where our expenses, where we had to cut expenses. We made the difficult decision to lay off pretty much all of our employees, with the exception of, I want to say it was 6 salaried managers and maybe 3 or 4 hourly staff members. From a conference center standpoint, we shut down AC, we shut down lights, we shut down, you know, everything that we could shut down to save expenses. The laundry, which is attached to the conference center, was shut down, except for 1 day a week when Andy and I did laundry. You know, everybody just became a jack of all trades over this period of time. The hotel was desolate, the conference center was desolate. We're starting to see a little signs of life, but we stopped all expenses. You know, we didn't purchase any linens, any china, any glassware. We didn't purchase any food. We tried to save food where we could that was salvageable, but perishable foods we lost a lot of. We shut down hot water. We shut off gas to save on our utility bills. So we did everything humanly possible to save every dollar that we could. As far as the hourly employees we laid off, I want to say it was in the range of 110 to 120 employees. Some of the hardest things we've ever had to do. So go forward. Since we have started to see a little bit of light, we did for a minute in June and July. August is, I think with school, August is typically slow anyways, but with school and the uncertainty and the distance learning and all that, we've seen a lot of, not a lot of activity on the meeting side, and most of them have canceled, except for a couple of larger ones. We have one in right now, as a matter of fact. But we have brought back a few key positions. The executive chef and the banquet chef were brought back. We did reopen our restaurant, so anybody out there that, you know, wants to come in, we're only closed on Mondays and Tuesday mornings, and then we're open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner the rest of the time. But we do have an assistant chief engineer that we brought back, because a 20-year-old building, we just can't do it with one person. We had our chief engineer, that was it. We laid off 6 other engineers. We finally brought back the assistant chief to make sure that we maintain, you know, the property that we do have. The assistant banquet manager and the was laid off or eliminated. We don't see any the business coming back to the levels that we would need to support certain positions. So there were some that were laid off, and permanently we've eliminated these positions. The assistant banquet manager was eliminated. 1 sales manager, 1 conference services event manager, 1 catering manager, 1 event administrative assistant, the director of loss prevention, 1 human resources manager, a part-time engineer that was not budgeted. We're not going to bring that back. And we only have 1 part-time loss prevention officer on duty now. So right now we continue as we forecast throughout the year. I know Andy, we had originally had designs to bring people back in September. That included a catering manager, a director of catering. What else was it? A sous chef. Mm-hmm. But we've since changed those plans again, because we just don't see the need or the revenues coming in to support that. Slide 10. Just a few of the operational items that I haven't mentioned yet. We do have a cleaning checklist that's been implemented to ensure frequent sanitation at touch points. It's every 2 hours, depending on business. all the meeting room setups, as I said, they're social distance, they're based on CDC guidelines, they're based on state and local guidances as well. And all the sanitation things that we've always done. We did actually purchase a electrostatic sanitation sprayer. It's not here yet because they're, as you can imagine, they're all back ordered, along with every other kind of sanitation equipment. But we're set. We've got all of our hand sanitizers, our face masks, our rubber gloves, everything that we need to operate, we're good on. But this electrostatic sprayer is going to be new for us. It's going to be required for all Marriott properties, and it will be for all the public space. So it'll make our guests feel more comfortable coming back. And then you can read the rest there. Not a lot of great news, but I know that we'll make it through this. I'm confident that, you know, it might take us a little bit of time, but we as a management company are going to do all we can to ensure that that we're mindful of every penny that, you know, the city and the county can bring in, and every penny that we can save to make sure that we, if we're not profitable, to save as much money as we can to get through this. Any questions?
We do have a question that came in from Alderman Berger, if the committee would allow that now.
Well, I have one question, but either way, I mean, she can go. I can save mine for later. Mr. Chairman.
I'll do it for you really quick. So the question is regarding the conference center. Do we have a force majeure for the conference center? Loss of revenue is happening and will continue. Also, what protections do we have and the county have? Does the city and the county have?
So from a contractual standpoint, all of our contracts have a force majeure. There's not a third-party management company or booking agent like Conference Direct, or all the people that book through us, they require force majeure in the contracts. So that force majeure, the reason we're still collecting some of the cancellations, because we, you know, really try and break down what that force majeure means. If the guidelines are that you can't gather, you're in phase 1 and you can't have gatherings over 10 people when you have the social distance, and our function was during that time period, and we're still in phase 1, then that force majeure kicks in. If it's if it's 3 months out, we don't know that we're going to be in the same position 3 months from now. So if you cancel, and you're trying to cancel, let's say for January, we don't consider that to be a force majeure at this time. But we have to be sensitive, because a lot of our groups are, pharmaceutical or doctors, or like the podiatrists that just canceled. And these people have been coming to the hotel for years. And so we are looking long-term. We're not looking short-term gain, we're looking long-term gain, because eventually we're going to come out of this. And if we rub everybody the wrong way because we're insensitive to the situation, we'll never recover. So we're looking forward to the recovery. As far as, I guess, as the second part of that question having to do with like a liability of the hotel?
Yeah, it's probably directed to our CFO, Christine, as far as the loss of revenue that is happening, and will it continue, and does the city and the county have any protections about that? Would that be for you, Christine?
Well, I would address it. It was certainly as the owners, we have been in regular consultation with the Chartwell staff during this process, and we did have these conversations about, for example, the letting go of staff to decrease expenses. We were aware of that as it was going on. For the month of the fiscal year that has just ended, we of course haven't been audited, but we did have because of the first part of the year, or the fiscal year was so strong, we did end up positively. We gained $130,000 for the fiscal year that ended June 30th. For example, for the month of June that Matt was describing, as we had some business, we had less expenses, but we did lose $13,000. For our share, the loss was $13,204. So we do record that loss to our hotel motel fund for that for the gains or the losses are always recorded in our hotel motel fund. So certainly that fund has sufficient reserves for the time being. We know that as Matt was describing, we don't know a lot about the long-term future, about when the turnaround is going to happen, but certainly those are some conversations with our city administrator as we review the operations of the center on a month-by-month basis, that we do evaluate that as against the reserves that we do have in that one fund. That's how we do record the gains or the losses on the center. Maybe I ask the city administrator if he has a comment.
Well, I think Christine covered it well. You've got a couple different protections. You've got, for the facility, we've got a reserve that we continually monitor and build that helps deal with the upkeep of the facility. That has been helpful in this time as well. And then, as Christine said, we have accrued in virtually every year of operation of this center. Fortunately, it has contributed to our hotel motel tax fund. And so in cases where if we wouldn't have a positive flow, that would be a place we would look to help offset any negative performance there in terms of keeping it operational. We've been fortunate to this point. We continue to monitor closely, and Christine described well the close partnership that we have and how we talk through together what makes sense. And Matt talked about the tough decisions that had to be made around staffing, but we also talked about maintaining a few key positions so that the facility was maintained well and that we didn't do long-term harm in terms of not maintaining it to the level it needs to be, so that when business starts to return, we're able to respond quickly and capitalize on it. So that's I hope that answers the question. That's how we're operating.
Christine, so the reserve that Eric just mentioned, is that the 287 for the previous year, that 5%? Is that what that reserve is?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Yes, Eric was referring to his first comments was that, so it was the operating reserve that actually, as we set aside funds off of net revenues. It's not a bottom line reserve. And that's a reserve that we use to upkeep the facility. Then certainly when there's profits or losses at the bottom line, that is shared equally between ourselves and the county. And we record our profit or loss into our hotel motel fund, and that bottom line end result. But we still do put that 5% off the top into a separate reserve that is used to help maintain that facility. For example, when Matt was describing the project to replace the doors and the locks, that was funded by those reserves that were set aside.
Thank you.
My question, Matt, is a little different regarding did the Chartwell apply for any federal help from the federal dollars that was coming to businesses? Did Marriott Chartwell Corporation qualify? Did the staff benefit from any layoff or taking leave? Were there any compensation gained from any federal support or help?
I assume you're specifically referring to the PPP?
Yes.
I'm going to have to defer that question to, I don't know if Michael's still on. I see his name on there, but I'm not sure if he's there. I'm not privy to what happens on that end of it, but we can certainly get that information to you.
All right, okay.
Or you can get it to Christine and
Matt, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Michael.
Okay, hello all. My apologies for not being on the video portion of this call, but Alderman Bransford, very good question. And I'm kind of in the same situation with Matt, not having all of the answers. I do know that every single hotel that we operate, we've been going through the process of requesting the funding or requesting the loan through the PPP. We've been working with banks or lending institutions, and Most of that predominantly has been managed through our development team. But I can get some information for sure from the development team and send that over to Christine.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Any other questions from any other committee members? Christine, does that end that portion of the, okay?
Yes, sir.
Well, then let's go to item 5, report on property tax. Lawrence Sullivan.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to see you all. And I want to promise that Mike Lowe set me up for this, that some of you see me in other meetings and I'm not always the most succinct, but Mike has decided that this was a time for me to be very brief and share that our property tax, as with your vision for diversification as a source of revenue for the city, you should all be proud of yourselves and our citizens that we're at 98.85% collected for the year. And we all appreciate your work in this regard, and the tax chart and grid holding up there. So our diversification has done well in this aspect. End of my report, unless there are any questions.
Great report. That's great. Our percentage.
If I may just add, Mr. Chairman, that we appreciate the hard work and the partnership of Karen Paris, the Williamson County trustee, when it comes to billing and collecting property taxes. That is something that we consistently hear from our residents, our property owners, that makes the property tax payment process something that's less complicated, where we're all on the same bill, have the same due date. And her office is very, very easy to work with. And we do appreciate their partnership with the city. And during my time here, the board has chosen to renew that partnership that the county trustee's office has offered to us. And so I think we need to give our thanks to Karen and her staff too.
Any questions from any of the committee members? Lawrence, we thank you for the report.
Thank you, sir.
Keep up the good work. Let's go to item 6, monthly finance reports for August. Mike Lowe, you're up.
Mr. Chairman, for this month's reports, I thought it would be helpful to emphasize the activity during the COVID-19 period that began with March. And I thought I might go through a few points. In July, the city received $1.8 million from the governor's local support grant. This was a direct appropriation from the state and a one-time revenue for the city in fiscal year 21. And the state, they did not require us to detail on these monies why the funds were needed. The second point is for other grants, both the Stafford Act, which is FEMA, and the CARES Act, the city can request reimbursements of COVID-19 costs, but neither of them permit reimbursements for lost revenue. Although not in these reports, the city is currently showing $240,000 of direct costs that we have incurred, such as PP&E, cleaning supplies, plexiglass, and other items that will be requested from these grants shortly. An additional request will be made later for any eligible personnel cost. One cost, though, that was not eligible through FEMA is in the CARES Act, costs associated with telework are eligible. And this would include even PCs that were purchased so employees could work remotely. In looking at the sales tax impact during COVID-19, for local sales tax from March through May, the city has received almost 1.4 million less than the same months in 2019. And this is 15% less, but we knew it could be worse. We should receive actually June's sales tax number here in the next week or so. For gasoline tax, with there being fewer trips occurring from March through May, the city received almost $100,000 less, and this is a 14% reduction. And the city uses gas tax to fund resurfacing of local streets, and a long-term decline in gas tax may have impacts on our resurfacing program. For hotel motel tax, with less travel with less travel occurring from March through June, the city received 1.1 million less, and this is a drop of 71%. And the city uses hotel motel taxes to support projects related to tourism in the city, including numerous parks initiatives. There is some good news, though, for the conference center that Christine did mention. Although 6 of the 12 months were in a deficit, the net profit for the year was $130,000. As we heard from the conference center management, we know that fiscal year 21 will be a challenging year, both financially and operationally for the center. However, every effort is being made to reduce financial losses to the city and county. And maybe the last point from the monthly reports is the city's general fund is showing a slight deficit at the end of May. Although revenue has been less, it is not as bad as it could have been. Back in prior months, we were looking at worst case scenarios of up to a $5 million deficit. At the end of this month, the finance department will close the city's books for 2020 and report to this committee in September the unaudited ending financials. Were there any questions from the committee on the monthly reports?
Any questions from any of the committee members? Seeing none, let's go to other business. Christine, I think you have some items that you would like to discuss.
Thank you, Chairman Barnhill. I do just have a housekeeping note. Here we are in the hot month of August, but I did want to give you the update that we only have 3 meetings of this committee for the rest of calendar year 2020. So for all of us who are looking forward to maybe a better 2021, this committee only has 3 meetings left. So just wanted to give those dates out to you. We will be meeting September the 10th at 2 p.m. And we will be, the special guest for the September meeting is our annual update from our investment advisors, government portfolio advisors. Instead of coming to visit us, they will be giving their virtual presentation similar to what we had today from our guest from Chartwell. We will be meeting October 15th at 2 p.m. for our October meeting. And then we do have a joint November-December year-end meeting on December the 3rd. And that will be our presentations from our auditors, Crossland. So just wanted to give you those 3 dates, and we'll start planning for hopefully a better 2021. But thank you all very, very much. I appreciate Mike's report. Also, I just want to give a comment that all of our city staff is working very hard to work on our grant reimbursements opportunities. We've been getting more information in the last 2 weeks on grant opportunities, and it's a citywide effort. We're even having to recode some of our expenses that we now found out could be eligible for reimbursement, and we're working to get every opportunity to reimburse expenses that we were never expecting to have happen. So we thank our colleagues throughout the city, and we just want our aldermen on this committee to realize that we are working very hard in that effort, and I certainly appreciate it.
And by grants, Christine's referring to COVID-related expenses that we're able to recapture through either CARES money that flows through the state or other options, Stafford Act, which is a emergency response act. So that's the kind of work everybody's working on, especially finance and all of our departments.
Any questions or comments from any of our committee members? If no further business to come before this committee, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Proper motion, is there a second?
Second.
Let's do a roll call vote. Alderman Speedy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Alderman Bransford, how do you vote?
Yes.
Alderman Peterson, how do you vote?
Yes.
And the chair